What is going on to all my You fans out there, and welcome back to the channel. We are back discussing You Season 4, Part 1, Episode 2, titled Portrait of an Artist. Now, like I mentioned in my Episode 1 breakdown, this is part of a series of videos in which I will be breaking down each episode of Part 1 individually with the knowledge of only that particular episode. So in this breakdown, I'll only be referring to events that we learned in Episode 1 and what shakes down in Episode 2. But again, this is all pre-recorded. So by the time these videos are out, you can watch the entire series, which can be found in the description of this very video. With that being said, we're here to talk about Episode 2. Full spoilers ahead. We opened the episode with the question that we were posed with at the end of Episode 1, which was, who killed Malcolm? We see Jonathan looking across the table at all these potential killers, as we see Adam jokingly warning Jonathan about murdering him if he steals the spotlight after giving some kind words to Simon on this special occasion. Now, going back to my thoughts in Episode 1, you all know Adam was definitely one of my number one suspects. Him and Penelope probably working together as this kind of power couple, sort of kind of it would have happened if Love and Joe stayed together. But we're going to learn a lot about Adam in this episode. One thing in particular that I didn't care to know about, but we'll talk about that later. As we go back to Jonathan's home, he has an invitation there that was given to him by Kate. Now, Kate seems to be on his radar now, and throughout this episode, we're watching Jonathan kind of pick and choose who he believes the murderer is, which leads him to dive into these books about murder mysteries in hopes to study the killer's next move. Now, we know as an audience, Joe, you're a killer, man, so he kind of knows certain things, but he's never met someone that's kind of leaving it as a mystery, which leads him to talking to Nadia. Now, I didn't really talk too much about Nadia in my Episode 1 breakdown because there wasn't a ton from her, but this episode was the complete opposite. She is the perfect individual to kind of look into these murder mysteries, and she knows all the tropes. She tells Jonathan, number one, there's no coincidences. Number two, motives tend to all point towards three things: sex, money, and revenge. And number three, the first suspect tends to be the next victim, which is very key. Now, with all this information in mind, he thinks Elliot might be the lead suspect now. It was just so funny seeing Jonathan going back and forth. Wait, it's Kate, it's Adam, now it's Elliot. But we get this scene here with Elliot as he seems to want to move past this, and he wants to leave his hit jobs behind him, and he's living this new life now. But let's talk about this for a hot second. Elliot, he's going to return, right? And also the involvement with the Quinns after losing 40 and then losing their daughter and knowing where their grandson Henry is. I am to believe that Elliot will come back some way, somehow. At least I hope so, because that would seem like a waste of a character. But also, I believe the Quinns are going to still be involved. But that's just my working theory for now. But talking a little bit about Nadia, if you're a Scream fan like I am, doesn't Nadia kind of remind you all of Randy? Because she is just like so knowledgeable about all these things. But again, I definitely have my suspicions on her, but not necessarily maybe being the murderer, but in particularly her relationship that she has with Malcolm. As we see a new message coming in taunting Jonathan, he knows that this, or to say he or she knows that Jonathan isn't Professor and Jonathan isn't even their real name. But the question is, who will figure out the other person's true identity first? And it's kind of a ticking time bomb that we get throughout this episode. But as we see, Jonathan and Penelope had shared some secrets together the other night, and she really has taken a liking to him. She's really interested in making him a friend, as they offer him a free outfit for Simon's big show that he's having later in this episode. So one of the themes so far in this episode that we can clearly see, everyone hated Malcolm. And also, Malcolm seems to have dirt on everyone, which might have led to his death, which leads Jonathan to stealing a key to Malcolm's office, in which he finds the secrets and the dirt that Malcolm had on others. And remember, money was a key thing that Nadia mentioned, which, funny enough, speaking of Nadia, she happens to just be coming around the office kind of late hours, which again makes me think that there might have been a relationship established between Nadia and Malcolm. And if you even remember in Episode 1, Malcolm kind of joked around about having relationships with his students. So again, Nadia is someone that we will be focusing on. But time to start the spying as we see Jonathan kind of checking off these potential other killers. Right now, he's checking off Gemma and also Princess, who goes by the name of Blessings. They're kind of low on his list, but he's still circling on Adam. He calls him a charming bully, and he mentions that Adam's name was actually brought up in that diary that was found in Malcolm's office. As we see, secrets are being revealed. And like I mentioned up top, there's some things I didn't want to learn about with Adam, this being one of them. He has a fetish, and that is having people pee on him, giving him a golden shower. As we see, Vix catches Jonathan spying on him doing this, and we see Jonathan making up this lie about researching books on the rich. Vic doesn't buy it, but he lets him go after he takes the money that we saw Jonathan find in Malcolm's office, and he tells Jonathan, let's just pretend you have amnesia and you didn't see anything happen. This makes me believe that Vic knows everything about all these privileged people. He probably knows all their deepest and darkest secrets. So I am to believe that not Vic is the killer, but he's someone that will probably be beneficial to learning more information about if I was Jonathan. Now, in this part of the episode, all the signs are pointing towards Adam as the motives are starting to line up, that Malcolm actually knew about his secret fetish as he wrote this in his journal. But we know it just seems too easy, right? After having this conversation with Adam, that is the case. It is confirmed that he's kind of going back to square one because Adam kind of warns him that you shouldn't get into sharing your private business with Malcolm. So right now, like I said, Adam isn't the main suspect, at least for now. But speaking of business, a random woman walks into a facility where his art show is being held, and it's actually the same woman that let Joe sneak into the back. Now she's there to embarrass Simon in front of everyone. She throws red paint on the work, she throws paint on him, and she yells to everyone, tell them that you're a fake, as she gets escorted out by Vic. Now, quick on his feet, we see Simon pretends that this was all part of his show, but Kate is aware of the situation, that he might be a fraud, and this is where Jonathan steps in and wants to help her find this woman. Now, we end up meeting this individual who goes by the name of Blue. Now, Blue was actually an assistant of Simon, but she also was the person behind his work. Now, she tells them a little bit more information, that this isn't the first time he's done this. He's done this to other girls, and he not only lies and kind of has them be forgotten about, but he also gets them addicted to drugs. And this is where we see Kate walks off. She writes her a check for, I believe, $3,000. We see that Jonathan stays behind, and this is where he learned that Malcolm actually came to her first in hopes to expose Simon and some of his other friends before he ended up getting killed. Now, of course, no one knows that Malcolm is dead except for Jonathan. Now, as the plot thickens, in my comments on episode 1, when we remember that Simon said that, oh, if you want to be a friend, maybe one of our other friends have to be killed, that's starting to gain a little bit of traction, but my theory on Simon being involved is going to be derailed and debunked pretty soon. Nadia mentioned your number one suspect tends to be your next victim, and surprise, surprise, Simon, he ends up getting killed by Jonathan Stalker, and probably the person that's responsible for killing Malcolm as well, as his MO seems to be leaving a knife in the victim's chest, but also taking a piece of their body. Episode 1, it was Malcolm's finger. Now in episode 2, it's the ear. So what is this adding up to? It seems to be pointing towards some type of message. I don't know if you use the finger analogy. Maybe Malcolm was pointing the fingers at people and not taking responsibility, and the ear being like Simon's listening or stealing people's ideas. That's kind of where my head's at now. As we cut to the scene of seeing Simon's quote-unquote closest friends not really caring that he's dead, this leads us to a really interesting scene where we see Jonathan talking to Reese as he's somewhat mourning Simon, which again goes back to my comments in episode 1. He doesn't seem to fit in with his crew, and even Jonathan brings it up here. But the question is Reese being genuine? I really am suspicious about what was it that, and he even mentions in his comments that he is friends with them because they know him from his past and they took care of him. So again, what did Reese do? What is his dark past that leads into him being friends with them? And again, is he being genuine? Reese, I got my eyes on you. Moving forward, we cut on to Kate, who does have a bit of a heart because we see her taking care of Blue and she wants to help her out in rehab. But then the question is, why does she hide this nice side about her? Very curious on Kate, but I also have a feeling that Kate and Jonathan will have some type of romance going on. But fast forward to Jonathan, he's starting to think that Malcolm and Nadia may have been in a relationship as he decides to help her out during the absence of Malcolm in her story. So again, I'm a firm believer right now that Nadia, she knows a lot, but she also probably had some type of relationship that might have been consensual with Malcolm. That's where my head's at right now. Let me know if you all are thinking the same. As we wrap up this episode, we got to remember, Jonathan's been distracted this entire episode, so he's kind of lost his track of mind in regards to the race of uncovering the stalker's identity as he returns home to find out that he's lost that game because the stalker has found out Jonathan, or should I say the history of Joe, as he puts it all on his wall. He knows exactly who Jonathan is. So to me, this was a fantastic episode. Again, I enjoyed episode 1, but to me, this episode was just so much more layers. The mystery was so intriguing. And of course, we got the murdering of Simon. So he's no longer on the board, but I still have my suspicions on his sister and also Nadia. What's the relationship that she had with Malcolm? Does she have anything to do with this? Because remember, she even said that number 2, it happens to be money, sex, and revenge. If she had a relationship with Malcolm, she might have been jealous that he was with his girlfriend, Kate. There might have been some revenge going on. He might have stolen an idea from her book. So again, let's keep an eye on Nadia, but also, again, I can't seem to shake off my suspicions on Reese. He seems too good to be true. He has a dark past. He seems to be the odd man out in this privileged group of people. I am very, very intrigued by what's going on so far, and I really enjoyed this second episode. So like I said in my episode 1 review, I'm going to go ahead and watch episode 3 now. And again, by the time this video is out, you can see my thoughts on that. You all have been awesome. Just a friendly reminder before you all leave to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. As you all can see on the screen now, check out my review for episode 3. Check out my playlist for my series of breakdowns on You Season 4 Part 1. We'll see you all in the next video.